This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand dawning, great rising Cleveland and the rest of the planet. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. I am with a multidisciplinary artist that may have an issue with the name, and we'll talk about that, or maybe not. But anyway, she happens to be someone that I have a great deal of admiration for because of the way that she operates as an artist, and we'll talk about that. She is also someone that was not born and raised in Cleveland. She actually has some West Coast connections, and we'll talk about that as well. Welcome to Open Door with Vince Robinson, Channita Pack. Channita, how you doing?
Hey, I am well, thank you. But wait, I was born and raised here, but then I moved to California like a few years ago.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were going to deviate from the norm. A lot of the people that I talked to have been born and raised in Cleveland, and some were born other places, but they grew up here. So you were born here, and then you moved to California, and then you came back.
Right. I moved to California in '08 just because of a gut feeling. And people are like, why are you going out there? I'm like, I don't know. I had this very strong feeling to go out there. And after moving out there, I was in the Bay Area. Honestly, I got a better understanding. It's like I felt like I made sense because there's so many artists out there. There's so many activists out there. It just, I felt quote unquote normal, kind of. But then I also saw just how much of a Clevelander I am.
Mm-hmm. So you went out there to practice art?
No, I'm telling you, it was just this strong feeling that was saying, go out there. I have my best male friend lives out there. We grew up together, and then he had been out there since graduated from college, I think. I visited in '06, then in '07, and somewhere in between those two visits, something in me was saying, that's where you need to be. Because I knew I wanted to leave Cleveland. I just didn't know where I wanted to go. First, I thought that I would go to Philly because my first love is music. And I was into the neo soul scene. And I thought, well, maybe Philly. And then I thought Chicago, because I would go up to Chicago and work on music with a buddy. And people were like, you trying to get away from the cold? It's like, oh, yeah. But something happened during that visit out there in the Bay Area in California, and my gut, my spirit would just move me out there. And I was concerned that I was crazy because I never had a feeling like that before.
Why did you feel that you needed to leave?
Why did I feel like I needed to leave? I think I would say this. Okay. The things that I'm very interested in, I don't think I really saw any of that here. And I also lived in Columbus. So I was down in Columbus after graduating from high school because I started off going to Ohio State. And I grew to appreciate the diversity that was in Columbus. And then, so it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with my personality. Then moving back to Cleveland and loving how it was a majority Black neighborhood. But the things that I was interested in, especially as I was growing and I'm like meditating, I changed my religious beliefs, the stuff that I was into as a whole, it wasn't the norm here at the time, and so I just felt weird. And the weather as well, because the other thing I told people was that I felt like the Pacific Ocean was calling me. I love water, and I know we have the lake here, but it's just something about me being by oceans that's, I don't know, it's like home.
Okay. So let's talk about your art. What are the lanes that you were traveling in, and when did you discover that you had this artistic aptitude?
When I was a kid, I used to draw all the time. And Again, music was my main thing. Actually, my gifts were always singing, acting, and drawing. I stopped drawing around the age of 14. And that happened because, well, first, let me say, I started drawing around the age of 14, filled the void with baked goods, eating cakes and cookies and stuff. And I did not know that until the mid 2000s when I kind of picked art back up. Um, Without getting into like, well, no, I stopped drawing because I would draw more at school. And unfortunately, the curriculum at my school that time, the way it was set up, I had to choose between choir, drama, and art. Like I could only have two. And so I chose to drop art. And I just wouldn't draw at home the way my home life was. It was like my anyway, my mom was mentally ill and my dad and I had to put up with that. So I was not doing art at home. And I didn't know that I filled that void the way I did. Um, Something in me in the mid 2000s, I guess I was experiencing anxiety or something. And I caught myself and I realized I was about to go to the store to buy some cookies just to feel better, this feeling that was coming up. And I allowed myself to be present with those feelings. And then I just made myself draw and I felt better. And I got a little suspicious about that, like, well, curious, should I say. And that put me back on the path of drawing, along with an incident that happened where I was shopping in Target. Target at the time was in Bedford. And I'm walking down the children's bedding aisle. I don't have any children, but I happen to look and I'm like, here you have Target in a predominantly black neighborhood. And all I still see is Disney Princess and Barbie and Spider-Man. We don't have anything that looks like us. Why doesn't somebody create something that looks like us? And I always share this story because sometime later, I don't know if it was months later or a year later, Christmas morning of '05, that was weighing heavily on me. And I found myself drawing an image. And all the features were intentional. And I drew this little girl. I draw this little girl and I'm like, did I draw myself? And I decided to put her on t-shirts and I come up with this idea called As Is. And that also contributed to me getting back involved with art. So art is my self-expression. I realized that music is my water. I have to have music. And art is my self-expression. It's like my voice. And when people ask me, well, what medium do you do? I'm like, whatever. However I feel like expressing myself. Drawing, painting, doing something with ceramics, whatever my spirit leads me to do.
Okay. You made a comment about the choices that you had at school. I really found it remarkable. You said you could choose between choir, drama, and art. And I'm just reflecting on the fact that most students in our schools, at least the urban schools, they don't have those choices anymore.
Wow, that is so unfortunate because I really believe that the reason I did so well in school when I was younger, because my grades start falling off. The reason I'm such a genius is because of my exposure to the arts. My family is very musical. My brother plays an instrument. Both of my parents sing, and music was always in my life. My dad used to draw. He stopped when he was a kid because someone made fun of him. And then my brother is the reason I started drawing because I saw how he would draw. And I'm like, I want to draw like him. He doesn't even remember this, but he doesn't draw. So that's criminal, actually, that's not available for kids nowadays in school.
Well, let me follow up by asking if your father does draw anymore, or did he just abandon it forever?
He abandoned it forever. He told me when he was younger, he used to sell little comic books. He said he would make little comic books and sell them. And because he told me that when I was in the 5th or 6th grade, I thought I could do it. I didn't really follow through with it so much, but I had a little attempt at drawing a little uh comic book. And yeah, so he let it go. My brother let it go. I don't think my mom ever drew. My mom was a singer.
Okay. And you're a singer too.
Yeah. Like I say, I think it's a requirement to like, if you're going to marry into our family, you got to be able to sing or at least have rhythm.
Okay. Well, I guess there goes my chances, huh?
Like says the musician, but go ahead.
I'm just kidding with you, Channita.
Enough.
So, when was it that you discovered your musical talent?
Oh, I can't even say discovery. Like, music to me was always the norm. Again, my parents sing. So I grew up always being around music. And now I will say this. When I was in elementary school, my mom had me take piano lessons and voice lessons. And I recall, I think I was 7 or 8 years old. And then I sang my first solo, as far as I knew, when I was about 7 or 8. That was in church. Now, something I do not remember is my family used to have a gospel group called the Pack Family. And we would sing. I guess I was too young to remember. But according to my dad, he was like, yeah, you would be out there on the floor trying to sing along. Like, okay. But again, it's been the norm for me to be around the gospel scene. Oh, when I was little, my piano teacher and voice teacher had me singing with the Cleveland Singing Angels. So my training was in classical, but then I would also have the singing in church. So my voice, I used to be a first soprano, and I had a wide range. I would go from first soprano all the way to tenor. I could sing tenor. So you can place me any part in a choir, just about. But then the more I was singing in the church, the less, my voice started changing. I couldn't do the classical as much anymore.
Yes. Well, I had a similar phenomenon in my situation because I played in the church as well. My favorite song was "What a Friend We Have in Jesus."
Really?
Yeah, I could play that song. And, my mother would always have me playing the piano, playing the song. They got the biggest kick out of that. But I was around 12 years old, and then puberty set in. And then after that, my voice changed. And that was pretty much the end of my singing career, at least in that era of my life. But believe it or not, I do entertain the idea of singing again, and as well singing and playing the piano at the same time, which has its own challenges. But that's something that I'm going to work on, and maybe possibly even play the piano and do spoken word at the same time too. I've been kind of practicing on that. I'm gonna have to practice a lot more, but that's something.
Hey, you should see my face. I'm tilting my head like, okay, come on, let's do it.
All right. Well, we're going to talk more about the birth of the artist Channita Pack, and talk about that program that we had at Larchmere Arts back in the day, probably 2017. I think that might have been when you decided, hey, I'm going to do this for real. We're going to talk about that and more when we return. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. My conversation today is with artist Channita Pack. We'll be right back right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. Burton Carr Community Radio.
This is DJ Chris Styles, programs and music director here at WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, a Burton Bell Carr Community Radio station. WOVU 95.9 FM sends a big thank you to the entire staff of the St. Luke's Foundation and President and CEO Timothy Tramble for awarding WOVU 95.9 FM $25,000 to purchase the WOVU 95.9 FM mobile vehicle. On behalf of our entire team, our Executive Director, Joy Johnson, and Executive Board, we said thank you, St. Luke's Foundation, for continuing addressing social determinants of health for our people in our neighborhoods and throughout Cuyahoga County. Thank you. This message is being brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and the conversation with multidisciplinary artist Channita Pack. She has told us that she could draw. We've understood that she also sings. There might be another artistic realm that she's functioning in, but we're going to talk about your birth as an artist. Before we took the break, I mentioned the fact that you did a show at Larchmere Arts, and I don't know if that was your decision at that point to say, hey, I'm coming out as an artist or what, but talk about when you decided to flip the switch and say, okay, now I'm an artist, I'm doing this for real.
That, I was always trying to be, I don't know if always, I made an effort to be quote unquote normal. And it seems like whenever I be regular, I can do it for a while and then I'm miserable. So something in me is always saying, you gotta do the stuff that you love. So I would just dabble in it and make some steps forward. And the event that I hosted at Larchmere Arts, which I'm so grateful for you allowing me to hold it there, I had an idea. I had this idea of combining my gifts of singing, acting, drawing, art with what I'm very passionate about, which is using my gifts to help my people, Black women and men, heal and embrace our authentic selves. I always say that, right? And I had this idea to do something, but it was something I had never seen before. And I admittedly was a little nervous because I was doing it here in Cleveland. I felt that it would make more sense out there in Oakland. But I said, I'm doing it here in Cleveland. Okay. And I get up there and I do a monologue and I show people my my art of the little girl that I drew. So I'm performing as her, the little girl that I mentioned earlier that I was inspired to draw. And I also do what I guess someone would call spoken word or singing. I performed some of my original material. And then it was part performance, part workshop. And I wasn't sure if it was going to make sense to people, but I'm so grateful for people giving me positive feedback afterwards. And I got a better understanding of how my art is of contribution to folks. And I still keep having to convince myself to let go of the thing of worrying about coming across as crazy. And that has a lot to do with the fact that my mom was mentally ill. So I questioned my creativity, being like, okay, is it crazy? And even me sharing that allows me to perhaps speak for people or speak to people that can relate. Some of the paintings that I've done, I'll talk about it in some of my posts on like Instagram. Well, recently I started talking more about my art. Music is easy for me to talk about. Drawing and stuff, painting, that's always been kind of private. So I've been allowing parts of me to be seen more through art.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I'm just thinking, you talked about how you abandoned art and then you took up cookies as a way of dealing and coping and whatnot. I'm first of all mindful of the fact that art has been healing for you, therapy for you, and so forth and so on. But I'm also, just based on conversations that we've had, thinking about how you have dealt with certain challenges. I know you're a person of I don't want to say extreme stature, but you're taller than most people are. And I'm
Yes.
wondering how art has helped you feel normal in a sense that you may not be perceived as normal by folks.
First let me say this. I think, all right, for those listening, I'm tall. I'm 6'2". I've always been tall. I've never had a problem being tall. And what I mean by that is it was kind of praised to be tall. However, I had these gifts that allow me to also stand out. And I'm not sure that I was very comfortable standing out even more. Um, I, you know, how when you're just being yourself and you think nothing of it, it's amazing how you can be very magnetic. So people will be drawn to me, and I really didn't get it. And um, I didn't understand jealousy. I don't think anybody was jealous of me. I really don't think anyone was jealous of me. But I would witness people being jealous of other people who had gifts. So it's like, oh, look at Vince. He always gotta, play something. He always gotta do this. And as a child, I would listen to people talk about you and think, oh, well, I guess I better not do what Vince is doing. I guess that's a bad thing. So I would dim my own light. I wouldn't show my gifts as much. I thought that was just being too much. Or I remember I didn't go out for a solo because I knew I would get it. And I was just like, I didn't want people mad at me thinking like she always gets it. And um, the past several years has allowed me to see that, but this is who I am. This is who I am. I can't help but be this. And if I don't do this, I'll die. It's just who I am. So allowing myself to be, to have full blown self expression is what's necessary. So I'm in the stages of allowing more art to be made by me. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and as you said, what you said about haters, I was thinking about Skee-Lo. Remember Skee-Lo? He had a song. He said, "I wish I were taller. I wish I were."
Oh yeah, yeah. Wish I was a little bit taller. I wish it was yeah.
Yeah, he's 5'8".
I never knew how to. I remember the song though.
Yeah.
So I'm really learning to just go back to how I was as a child and just like shine and understand that I'm not hurting anybody. Because that was the thing. I think I thought somehow I'm hurting somebody, and I'm not.
Mm. And the relationship between what you just expressed and the expression "as is." Tell us about that.
Yeah. Okay. So the little girl that I drew, that I was inspired to draw after being at Target, I didn't have the words "as is" first. I was inspired to draw the image. And I draw her. I start off with the nose. I don't even think I drew the shape of the head first, but I start off with the nose because growing up, I was picked on about my nose. I was told that, oh, you have a flat nose. And then later on, Cabbage Patch dolls came along. They were like, you have a Cabbage Patch nose. I never thought anything was wrong with my nose until sometime in elementary school, people start picking on me about my nose. I had a childhood friend who felt the need to always compare our complexions and compare our hair and point out how she had quote unquote good hair and she was lighter. And I just felt like it was unfair to be made to feel like something is wrong with me. So after drawing the little girl, I'm looking at this paper looking at this drawing. I said, okay, well, she needs something to go over her head, some words to capture what I mean by this. Because again, every feature was intentional, even her hairstyle. She has little Bantu knots. And I come up with the words as is. Because I know there are sayings out there, happy to be nappy, blah, blah, blah. And something's like, no, that's not what I'm saying here. So as is just came to me and it stuck. I said, yes, that's it. Now, I said, now she needs a canvas. And it hits me, t-shirts. So I had t-shirts made. And this is what's interesting. People think I sell t-shirts. I say I don't sell t-shirts. I sell as is. Because it was never about a shirt. It was always about the image and the message of as is. I came up with a poem to put on the back the second or third time I had t-shirts made because I got tired of some people saying, as is, what's that? Because as an artist, I'm coming from the place of, well, what is it to you? So I come up with a poem, and it's very simple. See, it's the complexion of my skin, texture of my hair, shape of my nose, fullness of my lips. I embrace all these things God created as is. And I've heard some people say, oh, that's Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. Like, oh, thank you for the fact. It's not.
Right.
But I get why you would say that. And I have come to accept that people interpret it based on where they are. Some people will hear the words as is, look at the image or read the poem, and they'll say, that's right, accept me as is. And I interpret that as that's where they are. They're telling other people, accept me, as is. I came up with that from a place of where I would prefer to stand, which is, no, I'm telling myself. If it's like, I embrace all these things God created as is. So it's really about promoting self-love, self-acceptance, self-respect. And the event that I held at Larchmere Arts was taking it to another level where it's not just about a t-shirt. Someone said, it's like a movement. I'm like, But again, it was part performance, part workshop. So the audience members can dive into their own stuff.
Yeah, art is so subjective. It's subject to interpretation, and then it's what people do with how it affects them. We talk about consciousness and so forth and so on, and we provide information to people. You provide this image to folks, but the most important thing is what happens after you take it in. Does it modify your behavior as opposed to you just looking at it and shaking your head and walking away? I think, art has an ability to have a transformative effect on people. And I'm just looking back on your workshop and your art as it has progressed. I can see its ability to do that. Absolutely fascinating. Number 2. We've uncovered a couple more lanes that you're traveling in. So you mentioned poetry, you mentioned acting, and I also know that you're kind of active on social media because I don't have that many folks that I follow on Instagram, but you are one of them. So we're going to talk about some of those things when we get back. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. Our voices united. Burton Bell Carr Community Radio. We'll be right back with Channita Pack after this.
Many people in our community dream of owning a home. Unfortunately, many also feel that that dream is out of reach. However, family, KeyBank is committed to changing that. KeyBank partners with a variety of mortgage programs focused on meeting the needs of borrowers, including offering down payment assistance, affordable and government loans, and solutions for first-time home buyers. A Key Community Mortgage is also a great way to help reach the goal of home ownership. It allows allows you to take advantage of low down payment options, and qualifying is easier than you might think. It's one more way KeyBank is supporting neighbors and neighborhoods in the communities that they proudly call home. To learn more, visit your local KeyBank branch and speak to a licensed mortgage loan officer. KeyBank and home lending products offered by KeyBank are not FDIC insured or guaranteed. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 399797.
This message has been brought to you by KeyBank and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and the conversation with multidisciplinary artist Channita Pack, who is a poet, and she just gave us a very short but profound poem. She also talked about growing up singing, some memories she's cognizant of and some she's not, but she's been doing that as well. She's a visual artist, and I'm going to share this with Channita. I was at somebody's house the other day, and I looked at this desk and I saw a very familiar image, and it was actually one of your paintings. And I'm like, wow. Really? Yes, I saw your artwork in someone's house. So just know that you are widely known now. You're an artist, and you're doing what you do. And I congratulate you on that. I can't tell you that I've walked into anybody's house except for one person that I know that has a Miles Davis photograph in his house. But I don't know anybody that has my work in their house.
We can work on that.
Yeah. Well, and that also raises the issue of the acceptance, the value of art, and the understanding by people of the value of art, because a lot of people don't see art as an investment. But you can invest in real estate, you can invest in stocks and bonds, as you know, you can invest in cryptocurrency and all that other kind of stuff, but you can also invest in fine art. So we really have to improve the consciousness of our folks in the community to the value of art, so that they can see what we do, respect what we do, and invest in what we do. What would you say?
I agree wholeheartedly. I appreciate hearing, what's his name, Rich Paul. He was at the Futureland event, the first Futureland event that we had here in Cleveland. And he was a guest speaker, and it just thrilled me to hear him touch on art and investing in art. Rich Paul is LeBron's agent,
right?
And growing up, you hear people always talk about artists don't become famous until they're dead. I think people need to be careful of the power of utterance, because if you keep saying that, then that will be your reality. The artists can't make any money. Art is, as you say, it's subjective. You're talking about someone pouring their energy into something. There's nothing like an original piece that someone just poured their heart and soul, their being into, compared to, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, but compared to some things you just see when you go into Family Dollar or Walmart, some copies of copies, of prints of perhaps something original. It's just energetic, It's like there's a difference between buying store-bought potato salad, and having potato salad made by your mom or your grandma. Some people may say, well, it's just potatoes. And there's some love in that other one. There's some love in the stuff made by your mom or grandma. Yeah. And I'm saying that because in college, I cried when I had homemade potato salad after eating store-bought stuff for the longest. But investing in art, I think it's really giving yourself a gift And when you touched on seeing my art in someone's home, I greatly appreciate that because the way I move, I am such a people person. I have to I build relationships with my art. I don't think I really sell my stuff to strangers. And what I mean by that is you're going to have a conversation with me. I want my art to be transformative for you. I want to know why are you interested in it? Like we engage in conversation. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Well, one of the missions that I have as an artist advocate is placement of art by local artists. And, I go into some of the municipal buildings that, are necessary for the operation of government. For instance, going to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and seeing this generic art on the wall and thinking to myself, they could have come up with something better than that, and there's so much art being created by artists in our community. There needs to be a place for it. Yes, you can go to Mark's and you can go over to the section where they have the photo frames and all of that and see something that's got an image, a generic image, or you could get something from somebody that is in your community creating something beautiful and then let that beautify your home or let that beautify your place of business. By the time this airs, it will probably be too late to reference what's going on at Cleveland City Hall right now. But a couple of months ago, Black History Month, as a matter of fact, they did an art installation of Cleveland area Black artists. And I'm telling you, it just totally transformed that floor. It's all on the second floor, and I just imagine what it's like for the people who work in that building, who are used to walking past those blank walls. And now they can look up and see all these beautiful images of art. And it's not just Black people in the art, it's art in general. But there's just so much value in the art that I just think we need to make a paradigm shift. I think about the Sherwin-Williams building. I don't know how many floors there are, probably 40 or 50 floors. And then I think about the damage that's being done in our community with lead-based paint and the fact that Sherwin-Williams is still selling lead-based paint. There needs to be some give back, Yeah, there needs to be some give back. And one of the ways that these companies that are doing business in our communities can pay us back is by procuring our art.
Absolutely. And I didn't know that they were doing that.
Doing what?
Still selling lead-based paint.
Well, they don't, as I understand it, and I can be corrected on this, folks check facts all the time, but as I understand it, they're selling lead-based paint under the Dutch Boy brand.
Okay.
Okay. So we're having all these issues with lead in our community. They're saying that lead in the paint is causing our children to have behavioral issues like anger and so forth and so on. And then, of course, there's the damage that it does to the body because of the presence of metals in your bloodstream. They talk about paint chips. I don't know that children are actually eating chips of paint. I mean, it can't taste good, and I can't imagine why somebody would want to eat something that doesn't taste good, especially when they are exposed to Lay's potato chips and Doritos and all that other kind of stuff. But anyway, that's something that needs to be considered, and so yeah. But let's move forward.
Well, can I say this?
Yes, please.
That just really makes me think of, actually, it lets me feel better about the place from which I come when promoting my art, selling my art. I always say, let my peace bless your sacred space, because I'm always coming from a place of love. I don't even sell my art to everyone. I'm funny. I'm funny about my stuff because I remember when I first started doing this style that I call my ancestral pieces, and someone wanted to buy my favorite one. Here it is. I'm out there trying to sell the art, but then I didn't want to let it go, and I wanted to know, well, where is this going? And she she had to convince me to let it go. She wanted to show me a picture of her altar at home. She said, "You see this? Because I'm handing my baby over to you." And she said, "It's going to be in a good place." And I said, "Okay, because I want to know that you are going to care for this as much as I would." And I really wanted to serve as a blessing to your space. So just think about what was just said as far as Sharon Williams or whomever, and the things that you bring into your space. Is it blessing your space, or is it just holding something negative there? I just want to bring the good to your space. And since I personally can't be there, my energy can through my art.
That brings me to another question, and that is knowing how long it takes to create that piece of work. And you just expressed your angst at parting with it. How do you go about determining the value of your art, the monetary value?
Admittedly, that's been a challenge for me. I think of, all right, I'll tell you this. I remember learning of I guess there's a standard way that people, they'll look at the measurement of the art and sell it according to so many cubic inches or something like that. And I do not use that method, because let's just look at a small canvas. Let's say I create something on an 8x10 and I use that to measure. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just going to charge $1 or $2 per cubic inch or something. Well, then I create something on another 8x10. I create something completely different. And it means something else to me. It just means something else to me. Because I do have a piece like that where it's about the value I'm placing on it. It's not about the size of it. It's, the energy that because it's not even just about time. It could be something that, it didn't take you that long to do it. No, it didn't. But the energy that I put in that, I know my spirit. That's what it is. I know my spirit and my talents are priceless. So I ask myself, what will it take for me to part with this? What will it take for me to part with this? And what do I believe I'm worth? And what I'm so grateful for is meeting people who never question it. Those are my people. Those are the people who value art. I don't spend time with people who like, wow, that just costs too much or da da da. I don't spend time with I actually don't really attract those people. I fortunately attracted people who, once I say the price, they either say okay and they buy it, or they don't question the value of it. They just admit that they're not in a position to make the investment, and that's fine. And then there are some who are, I would say, wise enough to ask if I would consider them making payments. I've had that. I want you to have my peace. I also want to make sure I have no resentment, because I've had that experience before of selling myself short and letting something go at a price where I feel like, wow, this person really got over. I'm not happy with how much I sold that for.
Yeah, that would have to be a terrible feeling, knowing that you put so much into it and then you got somebody that's trying to negotiate it. I mean, if they had their way, they would get it for free, but that wouldn't be fair.
Exactly.
Yeah. One other thing that I would want to mention, when it comes to the value of the art to you, is that it had a value in terms of the therapy that occurred when you were creating it. And I think that's one thing that's well, they won't actually consider. We are rounding third and heading home. We're going to have to break away for a few moments, but we'll be back. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
This is DJ Chris Styles, Programs and Music Director here at WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr Community Radio station. WOVU 95.9 FM sends a big thank you to the entire staff of the St. Luke's Foundation and President and CEO Timothy Tramble for awarding WOVU 95.9 FM $25,000 to purchase the WOVU 95.9 FM mobile vehicle. On behalf of our entire team, our Executive Director, Joy Johnson, and Executive Board, we said thank you, St. Luke's Foundation, for continuing addressing social determinants of health for our people in our neighborhoods and throughout Cuyahoga County. Thank you. This message is being brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr Community Radio station.
We're back. Open Door with Vince Robinson and the conversation with Channita Pack, who is someone who can paint. And I don't want to say I'm jealous or envious. I would just say that I wish that was a talent that I had, or maybe it is a talent that I haven't explored. But I just have so much respect for people who can put a pen or a pencil or a paintbrush and create something, especially when it's done so accurately. You know, there's an artist in our community named Thomas Hudson, and I'm just blown away by his ability. I don't know if he uses ink pens or pencils or whatever, but he has an ability to draw with such precision that it actually looks like a photograph. And the irony is that people seem to have more regard for paintings than they do photographs, which is another quandary for those of us who are photographers who want to get the respect that painters get. But we'll push away from that conversation. What are some of the other challenges that you face as an artist?
Okay, let's go to how this started off. I'm talking about what to call myself. I'm like so many folks. I'm a spiritual person, and I guess you can say I'm an activist. Well, it's like my activism shows up in its own special way. And let's just say I'm very passionate about my folks. Because of what I'm very passionate about as far as reclaiming things that we lost as a result of enslavement, I can have an issue with the English language. I feel like the English is a mutt language, and it can be very limiting, or it doesn't even sound right. The sounds don't even really capture what I feel like I do. So even to say multidisciplinary, I'm like, that sounds so corporate. Like for me, especially as I tap more into my divine feminine, I'm honoring my divine feminine even more. I'm like, there's no love in that word. There's no love in that word. So, trying to figure out what to call myself, because I know that I do various things, but it all makes sense to me. So I find myself wondering, well, how do I promote myself? And right now I'm just holding on to just show up as is, just be me, and trust that I will attract the people who get me. Another challenge is personally figuring out, where do I go to showcase my art? I had a friend who's an artist, and hanging around him let me see how everyone's different in how they want to go about promoting and selling and creating their art. He wanted to be in, I guess, galleries and stuff. I really don't care if I'm in a gallery. That's not my goal. I love people. I'm a personal type of person. I want my stuff in your home. Like I have to have one-on-one conversations. I don't have to have it up in some gallery. Now, if someone wanted it to be in a gallery, I mean, okay, I guess. But I would probably ask questions like, why, where, who's coming through the gallery? And some people would say, well, what difference does it make as long as it gets sold? Or, but again, that's me honoring how I operate. And I have to say that with confidence because the more I find myself in a lot of women filled spaces, the more I make sense to myself. The more I get validated with this is how I move. This is how I'm created. I don't hustle and grind. I flow. And those are two things that I know for certain that I find myself being challenged with is how do I let myself be shared more? And what do I call myself? Should I just should I make up a name? All languages are made up. So should I just make up a name for what I feel I am?
Well, I thought about it as you were describing the dilemma, and I landed upon multi-talented.
Hey. I can hold on to that for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really as corporate. I think it's more descriptive. I mean,
right.
Disciplinary sounds clinical.
Yeah, okay. And then I can short it like I'm an MT.
Yes. You're an
like,
MT
what?
artist. That's funny. So we talked about your visual art. We haven't talked too much about where you are in terms of music and poetry right now. Are you working on anything along those lines?
No, I haven't. And that's something I have to get better at because I mentioned how I let art go around the age of 14. Well, when I picked it back up, it's like juggling, or I prefer to compare it to when you have your laundry in your hand. You got all your laundry in your hands and you drop your socks. And you're like, oh no. And so you go to pick up your socks and then you end up dropping a t-shirt. So I picked up art and then I dropped music somehow. And yeah, I got to get the music back because there are some people who will think you have to do just one. Those are not my people. What I learned is those three things, music, acting, and drawing, for me, they are one. And whenever it's like a three-legged stool, so whenever one is missing, I'm off. Now I've gotten a little bit of acting here and there. So I've allowed that to get back into my system, just even being an extra in some of the productions here locally. The music, I'll be around it, but I haven't been singing, with an exception to posting a video on social media and me just singing just for fun. But I'm very much into collaborating with people. For me, all of this is play. So I miss being around people. Keep in mind, I grew up singing in choirs, and yeah, I would sing solo as well, but I love just vibing with people. I'm really not a solo person when it comes to creating music. I don't sit just creating in a bubble. I do extremely well playing, having fun with other people. And so that's my challenge around music is, okay, where is my circle, my crowd here in Cleveland?
And have you found it?
No. No. I've had to, even though I've been back here since 2016, 2017, I'm still relearning Cleveland. I got used to being out there in the Bay Area, but keep in mind, weather plays a role too, because there's no snow out there. So you have folks outside all year round. And so there's so many activities outside. You can just stumble across something. There's drumming outside. You can just be walking through somewhere and hear some musicians playing something and you join in. I remember sitting in on a jam session. It was just a jam session with what's his name? Dwayne Wiggins had hosted it. And there are a lot of artists that are from Oakland, like that I didn't know of. I forgot about Tony being from out there, but they're so chill, and we can have that here in Cleveland. There's so much talent here in Cleveland, and I wish that more of us knew it, because I got to tell you, I was in a play, and the director was Art Evans. Art Evans was in A Soldier Story,
Mm-hmm.
and Art Evans said to me when he learned I was from Cleveland, he said he was impressed by my audition, and he said, "What's your background?" And the first thing that came to my mouth was I mentioned Cleveland. And he didn't even let me finish. He starts going on and on about Cleveland. He said, Cleveland, Ohio. He said, most of the best Black actors come from Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm like, really? And he goes down this list. And I met so many other people that were impressed by Cleveland. They had things to say about Cleveland artists. And I just look forward to more of us tapping into it, because I get it. It's a blue collar town, but I would love for us to be for it to be more facilitative of the creative types here.
Yes. Well, as we have this conversation, there is a transformation taking place in Cleveland just because of the fact that now people are beginning to understand the value that artists have. And personally, what I would like to see is artists being raised to the level of respect that police officers get. Because when I look at the budget, and folks are going to get tired of me talking about this, but I'm going to keep bringing it up because it's something that needs to be addressed. We devote so much of the city's resources to public safety and making sure that we have enough police officers on the streets to protect us from each other. But those things don't really move the needle when it comes to addressing the concerns. You know, the lack of art in schools is problematic because those children don't have anything else to do. Some of them, they end up turning to the streets and resorting to crime. So if you want to tackle the issues, you got to deal with the cause and not just the reaction. And I think the reaction many times comes in the form of somebody in a public safety position. Yeah. 50,
Yeah, that's very profound.
Yep. 54% of the money that taxpayers donate to the city goes towards public safety. Someone quoted me something last week, and I'm not going to hold them to the accuracy of it. But when I heard that we spent $30 to $40 million on police misconduct just in the past year, and I look at, $3 million being appropriated for art from a gift from the federal government in the form of American Rescue Plan Act dollars, something is wrong. That's something that needs to change, and hopefully that's something that will change in the coming years. I think that the administration of the city is beginning to understand that, and we do have some champions in City Hall, so I'm very optimistic. We're winding down. I just want to ask you if you would like to share any information with the listening audience about how they can reach out to you. There might be someone who heard your interview that said, "Oh, I'd like to have a piece of her art." How can they get to you?
I have 2 pages on Instagram that are public that I share my creativity with. One is As Is Creations. That's where you'll see the little girl that I drew. You'll also see the little boy. But As Is Creations on Instagram. That's my handle. So Creations with a S at the end. And then the other is Channita World. That's where I just share anything creative that I'm up to. So that's CHANNITA, T as in Tom, WORLD, Channita World. That's how you can see my stuff. You can follow me and reach out to me on Instagram. That's the best way I can say stuff right now.
Okay. Well, Channita, it has really been a pleasure to have this conversation. We've talked before, but I think I learned more about you today, and I hope those who are listening have learned about you as well. I'm very happy to share your life story with the world. Thank you for joining me on Open Door.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the invitation. And to everyone's listening, thank you. Because, hey, allowing myself to be seen even more.
All right. And to those of you who are listening, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace.